Can I have a motion to reconvene into the public session? Mr. Tomio, seconded by Mrs. Mamalito. All in favor? 5-0. Please rise for the pledge.
With the permission of the Board of Education, we're going to go a bit out of order on our agenda in that this is our last public meeting before the holiday break. And in keeping with the tradition of the Elwood School District, we wanted to bring some holiday festive cheer to our meeting. So we reached out to Ms. Nagel at John Glenn High School, and she assembled some of our finest select choir members to share with us some holiday cheer to start our meeting on a very positive note. So I present to you Ms. Nagel and the John Glenn High School Select Choir.
This is the year peace will appear, hatred will cease, love will increase. All is here, all so clear, love shouting here, love is our being, love is revealing, love is our being, we all are one. Christmas bells ring out and love's a treasure, so we sing this song in merry measure, spreading the word, let it be heard. Each fell apart of loving hearts. Hark, hear the bells, bright silver bells, now echoing good news that brings the out of cheer. Christmas is here, now all is well. Sing ring a well, happy they ring, each answering, filling the air, loud is it low. This is the year peace will appear, hatred will cease, love will increase. All is here, love is so clear, love shouting here, love is our being, love is revealing, love is our being, we all are one. Christmas bells ring out and love's a treasure, so we sing this song in merry measure, spreading the word, let it be heard. Each fell apart of loving hearts. Ding, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding dong, ding dong.
On the front.
I think I've got everybody, actually. You could squeeze just a tad on that side. Oh, perfect. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, I'm getting the top of your head. Thank you so much. All right, ready, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Or not. Come on. Why am I having so many issues with my camera today? I'm so sorry. All right, I'm switching to the phone. My camera's not working. having problems with the technology today. All right, one more time. 1, 2, 3. And one more. Come on. Now this isn't working. Why are you being so annoying to me today? There we go. Got it. One more. 1, 2, 3. Promise, I'm done. Oh, okay.
One more.
I lied. Oh, you have a very big zoom on this camera, and I'm not getting everybody. So.
Thank you to Ms. Nagel. Thank you to our students for spreading some holiday cheer stuff on the meeting. Students, you are certainly welcome to stay, but you're not obligated to do so.
Very exciting things like calling for a motion to accept the minutes. So you've got a shout out from the minutes of the meeting of November 14th, 2019. Mrs. Weiss, seconded by Mrs. Mamalito. All in favor? 5-0. Now we're going to hand it over to Dr. Bossert to start the commendations.
And we are very pleased to have some additional students to recognize this evening. And to begin that, I would like to call on our high school principal, Ms. Brzezinski.
Good evening, Dr. Bossert, District Administration, members of the Board of Education, and the Elwood community. I would like to begin by thanking you for your consistent support of all the programs that we offer here at John Glenn High School, which includes our very impressive music program, as you've just seen on display. As a result of your support, our students are provided with a variety of opportunities to pursue their love of music and showcase their talents in some highly prestigious arenas. I would also like to take this opportunity to publicly thank the members of the music department, Ms. Henson, Ms. Gellert, and Ms. Nagel, for their tireless efforts working with our students to help them cultivate a love for music and hone their musical talents. And so tonight, it is my distinct pleasure to highlight 2 of the many talented musicians at John Glenn High School for their outstanding musical achievement of being selected to participate in New York State School Music Association All-State Conference, Hannah Kleiman and Melissa Manza. Please indulge me as I share a few brief remarks about each of these 2 impressive young ladies. Melissa, would you join me at the podium? Melissa is a talented musician who has been participating in school chorus throughout her time in the Elwood School District. She has also served as a member of the Metropolitan Youth Choir since she was in middle school. As a result of her hard work and dedication, she was selected for All-State Treble Choir for the 2nd year after experiencing the 2019 All-Eastern Choir and several successive all-county choirs, most recently including the Scamia Vocal Jazz Ensemble. Melissa's accomplishments are due in large part to her innate talents, but also the amount of time that she spends with her music preceding each honors choir, always exceeding Mrs. Nagel's expectations regarding her preparation. Her parents are also her true cheerleaders, always encouraging Melissa to pursue her passion and be her best. Melissa always represents Elwood with great pride, and we are so proud of her accomplishments. Congratulations, Melissa.
I think I figured out what's going on with it. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Great job. Congratulations.
Hannah, will you please join me at the podium? Hannah is also a talented musician who has dedicated her time to honing her musical talent since her early days in Boyd, and is also a member of the Metropolitan Youth Orchestra and Huntington Community Band. Hannah has participated in all county bands and orchestras ever since she was in middle school. Hannah has been involved in many activities also at John Glenn High School. During the past 4 years, she has been a valued member of the concert band, symphonic band, marching band, orchestra, honors wind ensemble, and pit orchestra. Hannah was also a member of the Band Leadership Council for the past 3 years and is a very active member of Triam. She is currently the student conductor for the band, as well as a frequent soloist with band and orchestra. In addition to her school activities, she has prepared solos for New York State Music Association Solo Festival and has been a member of SCMEA and NISCME all-county ensembles every year for the past 8 years. She is a 3-time member of the LIU Honor Wind Ensemble, and she was recently selected to perform in the world premiere of Miles of Blue, selected written in dedication to fallen police officers. Hannah is an extremely talented musician who plays the oboe, English horn, and clarinet. She has a great desire to be a successful musician and has spent a great deal of time furthering her music education through private lessons. In addition, she performs each summer in the Huntington Community Band alongside professionals. She is the unprecedented 2-time winner of the Director's Award for Excellence. We are so proud of all that she has accomplished. Congratulations, Hannah.
Congratulations. One, two, three. One more. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Congratulations again, ladies. Thank you for being such a tremendous source of pride for the Elwood School District. Thank you.
Thank you both very much, Ms. Krasinski, and congratulations, ladies. To recognize our next students of excellence, I'd like to call upon our Director of Physical Education, Health, and Athletics, Mr. David Shanahan.
I'd like to bring up Caitlin Rock and Aiden Desmond. Dr. Bossert, Board of Education, parents, and friends. Tonight, we'll be recognizing Caitlin Rock and Aiden Desmond for being selected as John Glenn's Suffolk Zone Award winners. Each high school in Suffolk County permitted 2 winners to choose for outstanding achievement in these 6 categories. Our staff put a committee together of PE teachers, and we selected Caitlin and Aiden based on these 6 categories. Physical education achievement, they maintain an A average or 90 GPA in physical education. They are scholastically sound. Students must maintain an overall grade-point average of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. Outstanding character. These students contribute to overall positive tone of physical education class as well as school climate. Physical education leaders. These students are leaders in class activities and demonstrate the ability to accept responsibility for regular classwork and tasks. Number 5, they are leaders in school-wide activities. They're officers in clubs, presidents of clubs, active members of school community groups. They volunteer, the captains of our sports teams. And number 6, they are role models. Aiden and Caitlin, our students achieve a high level of physical fitness as determined by our individual competence on the test batteries recognized by our school district. In physical education class, Aiden and Caitlin demonstrate a positive attitude towards instructional activities, provide support for the success of others. These students are outstanding. The Suffolk Zone and our PE staff attended a dinner at my favorite restaurant, Bill Lombardi's out in Holbrook on Tuesday, December 3rd, and they were recognized as being our outstanding student athletes. So on behalf of Elwood School District, we thank you for all you do. Keep up the great work. We love you, and have a great holiday.
One more.
We have no shortage of talent at John Glenn High School, and we appreciate the board's opportunity to highlight some of those skills and accomplishments of our students. So the next group of students we would like to recognize this evening are the members of the John Glenn High School who serve on the Shared Decision-Making Committee, who endeavored on a very interesting project of a new initiative at the high school that the board has previously heard about, of the Students of the Month. And to help take us through the Student of the Month practice at John Glenn, I'd ask Mr. Shakina to show a short video.
Hey, John Glenn High School.
I'm Katie Ann, I'm the freshman class president.
I'm Allie Haddad, the sophomore class president.
I'm Robbie Spellman, the junior class president. I'm Matt McNeary, the senior class president.
And I'm Vince Sneaky, the all-school president.
We have some exciting news for you guys.
The Shared Decision Making Committee has elected to create a Student of the Month program here at John Glenn High School.
Hey Robbie, have you heard the new Student of the Month thing?
Yeah, I heard about it. It seems pretty cool.
How do you become Student of the Month?
It's chosen by students like you.
Cool.
After you submit your nominations to the Google form, your teachers will select from a list of nominees based on the student's credentials. Matt McNeary to the principal's office, please. So Matt, what do you need to do to become Student of the Month?
Well, Mr. Sneaky, it's actually really simple. You just have to show the John Glenn community that you care. Some examples include staying after class to help with your teacher, or participating in and outside the classroom, or helping your fellow classmates when they need it.
Wow.
So basically just making John Glenn a better place?
Yeah!
Cool!
We can't wait to see you become the next Student of the Month at John Glenn High School.
So from infancy to idea to in practice, John Glenn has begun the year by students nominating and recognizing Students of the Month, and some of them were introduced at earlier Board of Education meetings. So it's wonderful to be able to recognize the students that were behind the initiative and the remainder of the shared decision-making team that helped put everything together. And the Board of Education has prepared some certificates to recognize your accomplishments, and we thank you.
I would like to publicly acknowledge and commend Zain Siddiqui, Matt McNeary, Katie Ann Bernard, Ali Hazard, and Robbie Spelling, who could not join us this evening, but the collective effort by all of our students. A job well done. Thank you so much.
And the last individual we would like to recognize in our commendations portion of our agenda is not a current student at John Glenn High School, but certainly a lifelong learner, and certainly a visible presence in and out of all of our school buildings over a lengthy period of time. I would like to recognize publicly the past president of the Elwood Board of Education, Mrs. Julie Freed. So, Mrs. Freed, in deference to your status in our organization, we'll not ask you to stand in front of the podium while we present you with some thoughts. It is very accustomed in school districts that when a board member finishes their service, you take a moment to thank them for their contributions to the organization. Mrs. Freed's contributions to the organization extend well beyond her time on the board, where she was an extremely active member of our PTA, the Elwood Endowment, as well as many of our curriculum committee and many of our other organizations within the district. That, combined with her service to the board, along with her recent presidency, causes us to want to take a moment to say thank you. So each of our buildings did a little something. The high school has performed in your honor. And Harley Avenue had a few things to say, Mr. Trankino, if you could help me out.
What is the Board of Education? What does the Board of Education do? How am I going to come up with this? Oh, I know. Let's go to the experts.
School family that we do things together, so we hanging them up on the school bus.
Oh, you did? What were they doing when they were on TV?
I don't know. They can play games and then they can ask the parents what games they want to play, and then they can play games and then they can get important stuff that grown-ups can do. They actually pray.
What would they pray for?
Anything. Can I talk about how to fire people? Intelligence, helping kids out fear their fears. I'm a person that stands up for other people. They help people and do good stuff. And learn science. And learn science. They think someone who knows how to take care of children. Probably people at work. They never ever listen, then they would probably be fired. Like a teacher or something? Or if they work for the school board and they keep working, they could get more paychecks.
Do you think you would want to be on the Elwood School Board when you grow up?
No.
No, why not, Emma?
Never.
Why?
To me, it's too embarrassing.
What's so embarrassing
I
about
don't
it?
know. It's just people. A lot. Because if they do it for free, then that wouldn't be fair. Because then they would be homeless, helpless, without food. Thing is to keep everyone safe and to make decisions. A certain age or a certain height? More than $1, I would say. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you think the budget's bigger than $1?
Absolutely.
How big do you think the Elwood school budget is?
Very big, very big. Like, I don't know how many feet, but probably over 25, something like that. I don't know. All I can say is that it's big. Like school supplies and the schools, so they get ready to build schools so they can teach kids. Because if parents had to teach their kids at home, then they wouldn't learn anything. I'm not armed with any weapons. That no one gets taken away.
Do you think board members ever have any fun?
No. I would think if I did all this hard work, it would make me get so tired. I think it's so much to do.
In all seriousness, when I was hired as a principal of Farley Avenue, there was a warm, smiling face across the table. That warm, smiling face was Mrs. Freed. And for the past 6 years, Mrs. Freed has still been that warm, smiling face. She has supported us, challenged us, and most of all, done what's right by our students. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts, Mrs. Freed, for all you've done for me, for our staff, students, and families of Farley Avenue and the Elwood community.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you.
Hi, Julia. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed. Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you, Mrs. Freed.
And thank you to Mrs. Milan, our Harley Avenue principal, and Ms. Albrecht, who helped put together some technology, and all of our wonderful students who really captured the true spirit of service to the board. Julia, we have some other things from each of the buildings. At Boyd Elementary School, led by our lead author, Dr. Toscano, we have a wonderful picture book which will tell you a story that might be familiar to you, and this is something we'd like you to take home and enjoy. And from our middle school students and the National Junior Art Honor Society here at Elwood Middle School, they made an original work of art, priceless in nature, that is also for you to take home and enjoy. And from the Board of Education and myself, we have a plaque. And it reads, and by the way, I would like to thank the CEO of Western Suffolk BOCES, Mr. Michael Flynn, who joins us here tonight to help recognize your contributions to the district, Julia. It says, presented to Julia Freed, President, in gratitude for your exemplary service and leadership throughout your years as a board member and president of the Elwood Board of Education. Your untiring efforts on behalf of our students will always be remembered and appreciated. Board member from 2014 to 2019, serving as vice president in the 16-17 school year, and president from 2017 to 2019. Thank you, Julie, for all your contributions.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Congratulations. Well, you should be done. Do you want to? Are you sure? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Can't really leave without saying, I didn't really want to have a big acknowledgement tonight, but I really came to thank all of you. I'm grateful for the service that I was able to give, and I'm grateful having my kids grow up in this community. There's so many people that come up to the microphone and talk about how great Elwood is when times are tough, and now I know what that feels like. I don't think I've cooked a meal since my diagnosis, thanks to Mrs. Custer's meal train. And I haven't lost a pound yet, thank God. I think most of you know that I left the board for health reasons, that I'm still fighting. And I loved that video, it made me smile, thanks so much. I just wanted to say how proud I am that my kids went to school here and they were so well prepared for college because of our great teaching staff. And I'm so proud of the work we did and our teachers here. And I'm proud of Dr. Bossert and the culture he's cultivated to support those teachers. So I couldn't leave without saying thank you. And you know what? I get a card or a gift almost every day from somebody. And all those cards and letters I keep. And when times are tough, I read them. So it uplifts me every day. And especially when they come from Harley, Brownie troops. It's the best thing. I just wanted to share that. Thank you. Of all people, just for some hugging. Can't let it go. I want to thank the board members. I've worked with all of you, and you're just outstanding individuals, and you volunteer your time and energy, but I especially want to thank Mr. Lamena for stepping up when I became ill. And that just put so much relief in my heart, so thank you.
Behind the scenes, Mrs. Fried was a little resistant to allowing us to thanking her for her service. So she insisted that the children went first, so I made sure there was a lot of them. And I will share our private phone conversation, and when I said, Julia, with the years, the time, the effort, and the energy that you've devoted to this district, get over yourself and let us say thank you. So we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight, and on behalf of the board and the entire Elwood School community, we can't thank you enough for your service. And much like we say to the students, we know you have homework, so you need not stay for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you.
Unless you just want to bust chops during residents' remarks. We are now going to have our student liaison report. So Mr. Zain Siddiqui, it's your cue.
Zane, do not take the mass exodus personally. This is not about you, Zane. People love you.
They're going to all watch it on video, Zane.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here once again sharing all the wonderful news from John Glenn. The Noble Knight title was passed on from Kimberly Barnes to Trish Farrell, our dedicated and well-deserving ENL teacher. At Glenn, we are always preparing students for the future, both near and far. On December 11th, the infamous course selection video was played in homerooms, in addition to the Naviance email and video posted to the website. This provides the opportunity for students to discuss course selection with parents, view teacher recommendations, and bring course selection sheets to be reviewed during their counseling meetings. The building is buzzing with energy. Just this afternoon, the high school held their annual HUD Start Party. Run by the freshman class and attended by volunteers of all grade levels, this event was a fantastic showing of the kind spirit and dedication to give back instilled in our JGHS students. This Saturday from 9 to 12, the high school will be having the PTSA Children's Holiday Party, complete with crafts, snacks, and even a meeting with Santa, Mrs. Claus, Frosty, and some trusted elves. The holiday party is sure to be an exciting morning. In addition, Glenn will have a holiday spirit week starting on the 16th, which includes a Christmas sweater day and a pajama day. On December 20th, the annual senior volleyball tournament will be held. On December 10th, the orchestra and chorus have their winter concert, with band performing next week on December 18th. There will be another college information site night in the high school auditorium on December 17th. John Glenn is working hard to provide support and guidance through this stressful and complex process. The halfway mark of the second quarter is rapidly approaching, with progress reports being posted to Portal on December 20th. On December 19th, students from Harley and Boyd will be coming to John Glenn to tour the building and view all the different decorated doors for the door decorating contest. Holidays from around the world are welcome. High school students in orchestra, jazz band, and a cappella will be singing and playing holiday tunes. With so much to do at this time of year, I wish everyone a safe and healthy rest of the month. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Happy holidays. I hope everyone is able to enjoy friends, family, and maybe even a little bit of rest in the weeks to come.
Thank you so much, Zane. Zane, thank you for keeping the board and the community up to date on all the good things happening at John Glenn and throughout the district. We appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. There are two items that I'd like to address with the board today. Students, you've been wonderful, you've been polite. You are free to study for your exams that are clearly taking place on a Friday before a holiday. One of the items on the agenda for discussion tonight, Mr. Tranquino, can you call up the calendar? The calendar? The PDF that's attached? It's below that? There we go. Thank you. No problem. So this is a draft for discussion purposes of the proposed calendar for the 2021 school year. Just so the community is aware, establishing the calendar for the instructional program is under the purview of the Board of Education and solely the Board of Education. We do our best to align the calendar with that of our region through Western Suffolk BOCES. Mr. Flynn, who just departed, provides us with a draft of what the BOCES calendar would look like, and all the component districts try to emulate that as closely as possible. As you know, we have a number of students taking advantage of BOCES programs, so to not disrupt their instructional process, we try to be as close to BOCES as possible, but as there are some discrepancies between the bargaining units, there will always be some differences between the calendar. So as you see in the commentary at the bottom, this calendar calls for a total of 184 days, 180 days of instruction, and 4 additional superintendent's conference days. The yellow indicates the placement of the conference days, the blue indicates days when school would not be in session. New York State has made some significant changes to the regulations surrounding setting the calendar in recent years. One of them is expanding the time that's allowed. The school year can go until June 25th of this year. That's established by New York State, and can begin as early as August for many school districts who choose to take advantage of that time. This year, Labor Day happens in the school year as late as possible. So we had some good conversations with stakeholders within the district and elected to really try to maximize that time for meaningful professional development before the school year begins by having 2 conference days before Labor Day, after September 1st, which would enable us to have our students return immediately after Labor Day. In communicating with some of the other 18 of the districts in Western Suffolk BOCES, there are some schools in Suffolk County who will be bringing students back before Labor Day. But there is some reason why we're hesitant to do that. Our teachers, however, are very supportive of the initiative of having professional development in early September. We would have our new teacher orientation then as well, likely September 1st. And we would then provide a 4-day weekend for Labor Day, and then return in earnest with students on Tuesday, September 8th. You'll see where all the vacations are plotted according to the different holidays that we've elected to recognize as the Board of Education. There is some flexibility provided in this calendar because some of our Jewish holidays and some of the Muslim holidays that we recognize in the calendar fall on weekends. So that provides some additional time for instruction and some additional time for days that we can work into the calendar. So you'll notice that this calendar has the typical February break, has the holiday break, Christmas, Hanukkah, from the 24th through New Year's Day. But then there are some discretionary decisions that we made, such as the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the Monday after Easter, and the super bonus, we would really hope to get it, Friday of Memorial Day weekend. Some of those days also provide for makeup days should we have some bad weather. Friday the 28th of May would be the first day that we would take back and bring students in the event that we exceed our inclement weather closures. This is in line with all our collective bargaining units. It's certainly within New York State regulations. New York State changed the regulations. Instead of counting days of instruction, we now count minutes of instruction. And we are in full compliance of those regulations by proposing this calendar. So I would like to open the floor to the board with Mrs. Marcus's permission for any questions or comments. And if there are no changes, I would place the calendar for board adoption in January so that our families can start planning around the set calendar. The calendar that lists all of our activities, half days and things like that, that gets created in June after this, the board has formally adopted this calendar.
Any questions or comments?
Just one clarification, June 25th, 2021 would be graduation, correct?
Yes.
I love this calendar. I like the continuity. It's not so broken up. We have an opportunity to start the year off with great professional development, and then we can just start rolling. I think personally it looks great. I support this calendar as it is.
What was the hesitancy with starting the school day before Labor Day?
Candidly, we don't have that need. I think the calendar lays out the way it does nicely. And we did hear some feedback from some of our older students who take summer work that typically ends on Labor Day. So we didn't want to disrupt that.
Just out of curiosity, the full sports and your start, will that affect any of the start times for the full sports?
Yeah, Mr. Shanahan has departed, but I'm going to guess that our fall sports will start as they typically would, and we'll probably start seeing contests in August.
And is BOCES starting their student school day after Labor Day as well?
Yes.
Are we in a consensus to put this for approval in January?
We will do that. Thank you, Board. The other item on the superintendent's report is the cybersecurity assessment rules of engagement. It's an item that appears on the agenda tonight in that our district is looking to partner with the Department of Homeland Security to do a full inspection of our systems in the technology department. They come in and they do a very rigorous inspection that is outlined within the document, looking for any weaknesses in our systems, in our operations, in our daily practice, in our network itself. The board and the community is well aware that cybersecurity is something that has been a great topic of discussion, a great focus of ours. I have to publicly commend Mr. Tranchino for the time and attention and hours of research and work that he's been doing to make sure our school is in compliance and as safe as we can be. It was Mr. Tranchino who identified the Department of Homeland Security's and this assessment as a free service provided to our district that would make any recommendations they feel are necessary to further secure our systems and our network. And we wanted the board to be aware of it. Whenever we work with a government agency like the Department of Homeland Security, we like to make sure the board is aware and the community is aware of this type of endeavor. And I think it also exemplifies how seriously we are taking the security of our data, the security of our network, and looking closely to always improve our operations. Are there any questions from the board that either I can answer or Mr. Tranquino can answer?
Did you mention the cost of this and I missed it?
This is a free service provided by the Department of Homeland Security.
I just want to thank Eugene for finding this. It's no cost to the district, to the taxpayers, and good job well done. Thank you so much.
Seeing no other questions, we will ask the board to approve that agreement that is on the agenda. And oh, I'm sorry, there's no resolution. Forgive me. With your consensus, we will move forward with our signatures on the document. It is not, thank you, Ms. Janelli, it does not require board authorization, it requires administrative approval, but with your consensus, I will move forward with signatures and submitting the document. Thank you very much.
We are up to our first residents' remarks. The board encourages all residents to attend its meetings, and this section of the agenda affords them the opportunity to speak. Persons wishing to speak should identify themselves and any organization that they represent at the meeting. Comments related to district business or any agenda item should be kept as brief as possible and may not exceed 3 minutes, which we will be following from now on. Questions or comments concerning matters which are not on the agenda will be taken under consideration and may be discontinued by the president. Public discussion of matters relating to staff, students, or others or to your reputations, privacy, or right to due process could be in some way violated is prohibited. Are there any resident remarks? You have a microphone at the podium, sir.
I just wanted to thank the board for honoring me with the Wall of Fame. I wanted to publicly acknowledge how much I appreciate it, and I thank you all for that opportunity.
You have another 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Anything else?
You can yield just
Hi, thank you again for the lovely presentation, everyone, for your beautiful student performances tonight, and then certainly to wish Mrs. Freed well. She is a neighbor of mine, and I've worked with her for years also, so well deserved and well done. Thank you. I did, when I was looking at the calendar, I'm very proud of our district being forward and recognizing all holidays and not just Christian holidays, whatever. But it looks like Eid falls during AP exam week, so just to keep that in consideration of how that will be addressed. And I'm sure you've already looked at it. Thank you.
If the board would like,
Yeah, please address it if you can.
there will not be any students missing AP exams in recognition of the holiday. College Board has also began to recognize the diverse holiday calendar. And Ms. Brzezinski, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that they have an exam scheduled for that day. I'm fairly certain once New York State public schools began to close for the more diverse holidays recognizing our Muslim friends and our Hindu friends, College Board needed to take action to make sure that schools would be in session when their exams are administered. I don't want to say 100% definitively without having the document in front of me, but I'm relatively certain there are no AP exams being administered that day. Should there ever be a conflict with our schools not being scheduled for instruction, please keep in mind we are recognizing Eid as a superintendent's conference day, so we would have the ability to bring in students and administer testing should they need of us.
Any other resident remarks? Seeing none, we'll now move on to our presentation of this evening, which is the AP results and Regents review. Dr. Hall.
So while Dr. Ho is moving the podium into place and we're presenting, I would like to thank Ms. Brzezinski and our curriculum team, Dr. Ho, Mrs. Eileen Kelly-Gorman, Ms. Pam Fine, for not only the work that went into preparing this presentation, but for all of their stewardship of the curriculum development and professional development that is behind the instruction that takes place in the classrooms. We are all familiar with the teacher-to-student contact that takes place and is largely responsible for the wonderful results that you're about to see. But that the work in assisting them in preparing their curriculum, fine-tuning the lesson plans, providing structured feedback to help them improve their instruction and examine best practice comes from this leadership team. So while we often think of teachers as the correlation to our results, I would like to point out much of the work that happens behind the scenes by these individuals that helps us really achieve to the levels that we have enjoyed. Dr. Hall.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of the insights that we have gleaned as we conduct a data review of our student performance. The data review is an ongoing process that's really conducted by our administrators, as Dr. Bosser was explaining, as well as our faculty members. And I think overall we're going to see continued success of students at John Glenn High School. The ongoing process of looking at data is an important part of our decision making when we're looking at instruction and programs. It's also the way that we identify areas for growth. It's where we target our strengths that we want to continue to grow, and where we celebrate things that are going well and look at what are we doing that's causing that result to happen so that we can continue to grow that through the organization. So if we start with sort of looking at our big picture, our macro data, and we take a look at these measures here, which are really important indicators of the health of the high school program and the opportunities that students are being presented with as they prepare to leave high school. We look at our graduation rate, our Regents diploma, the percentage of students who earn a Regents with advanced designation, and then our students who are selecting 2- and 4-year college. What we really see here is that we are maintaining and growing, and that our students are really being presented with good opportunities as a result of what the data shows us. We also have students who elect to go into the workforce and students who elect to go into the military. That does not get always reported back out to us in the same fashion as the 2- and 4-year piece. But really every single measure that you look here has improvement and maintaining. And the one I really want to call out is the Regents with Advanced Designation. And this is something that we're going to focus on a little bit further on in our presentation, because we're looking at 3/4 of our students achieving this. And it's something that, quite frankly, many school districts look at, something that they strive to achieve, and I think that we are making great progress in this area. So we're going to go into a little bit more of a micro level now and take a look at some of how our students have been performing on our Regents exams. I'm going to invite Mrs. Brzezinski and Mrs. Fine to please take us through those data.
Thank you. Good evening. As Dr. Hall mentioned, the students at John Glenn High School continue to meet with success. Tonight I would like to share with you specifically how our students continue to excel on both the Regents and the Advanced Placement exams. These next 2 slides provide you with an overview of how our students performed on the 10 Regent exams administered last year. As you can see in the slide, we have provided you with a breakdown of how our students performed over the past 4 years, relative to passing rates, mastery rates, and how our students' performance compares to the performance of students across New York State. Looking at the 4-year trends, the data reveals that our students have maintained high achievement. It is important to note that in order to understand any fluctuation, we compare our data to state trends. As the tests have been changing and the criteria used to determine proficiency benchmarks has been changing, you can't always compare year to year when analyzing data from a single exam. So looking at New York State allows us to ensure that we're still on track. And while it's clear that we hold ourselves to a high standard and expect to always outperform the state, using state data gives us a comparison data point to ensure that we're still trending in the right direction. And so with all that, we are thrilled to report that our student passing rates have maintained or increased in 7 out of the 10 exams. Our student mastery rate has maintained or increased in 6 out of 10 exams. And anywhere that there was a decrease, it was like 98 to 97%, there was not, enough of a change to cause us any concern. But we continue to look at the data and use that as an indicator for success and to help us develop continued aspirational goals for all of our students. As we demonstrated last year when we walked you through the use of the BARS system, the BOCES assessment reporting system, teachers and administrators analyze data and look at specific questions to see how our students perform and then consider what instructional implications are needed to propel our programs forward. For example, if you take a look at Algebra 2, we increased from 95 to 96% of our students passing and 32% mastery. Here's where our teachers are drinking the Kool-Aid about looking at data and having it sort of inform their instructional decisions. One of our teachers last year, of his own volition, after the Algebra 2 Regent exams, noted that 7 of his students scored between 83 and 84, which, as you may know, 85% is the benchmark for mastery. He then, of his own volition, without administrative direction, started a conversation with his colleagues, which they then looked at the student population overall, and they noted, and Ms. Eileen Kelly-Foreman helped me to get the exact data, that 15 students scored an 83 or an 84. So this is an important data point for all of us to explore. As you may recall, I mentioned to you that an 85 is the score needed to achieve mastery. So now we begin to examine that we have a group of students who are getting really close to mastery. And we need to drill down further to figure out why, what's preventing them from getting to that next level. It could be due to an incorrect response on a part 2, or as specific as an incorrect multiple choice question. Once the teachers drill down to figure out the trends to see if there's a pattern, does it relate to a content, does it relate to a skill, they can then make those necessary adjustments in their instruction to identify the area of deficiency. So we're not just looking for passing, we're looking to propel the mastery rate as well. Down. So again, that's just one of the ways that we use the data to analyze at a macro and micro level. And this slide continues to outline our students' performance on the 4 science exams and the English exam as well. Again, while the race for excellence has no finish line, these data reveal that we do have consistent cause for celebration, and we're very proud of our students. Another point of pride for us is how our students continue to demonstrate high levels of success on the advanced placement exams and how they continually outperform students across New York State and globally. As you are aware, we introduced the open enrollment policy in 2015 to improve student access to more rigorous coursework, which we know is an indicator for success in college and career. Since that time, we have seen consistency in a large percentage of our students taking advantage of this opportunity, which means more students will be better prepared for college and career. As you can see, in 2015, there were 832 students enrolled in John Glenn High School. And last year, we had 688 students enrolled. Yet despite 144 less students, the number of students enrolled in at least one AP course has increased from 26% in 2015 to 35% in 2019. As well as the number of students earning a 3, 4, or 5, growing from 184 students to 204 students. And as the data points out, our students, again, consistently outperform their counterparts across the state and across the globe. While we are proud of our students' success, we continue to set aspirational goals. I am so grateful to work with a team of teachers that are drinking the Kool-Aid and a team of administrators that help to support the vision at the high school of consistently pushing our students to reach his or her highest potential. To accomplish this, much work is done in each department to promote this goal. I would like to call upon my colleague, Ms. Pam Fine, to discuss how she continues to guide the faculty in data analysis exercises designed to inform their instructional decisions that result in continued student achievement.
Thank you. Good evening. As Mrs. Buzinski shared, although we continue to be impressed with our students' academic achievements, there is always more work to be done. The information gleaned through a data analysis process serves to inform both our short-term and our long-term goals. We use the data along with the New York State learning standards to isolate skills that require additional attention, either within a given course, department, or through grade levels. We pay attention to the question frames and academic vocabulary on these exams and determine which ones are most challenging for our students. We then work to embed these terms and question formats into our instruction and exams throughout the year to provide opportunities for repeated practice and more exposure. The data has also informed decisions associated with course offerings. For example, since 2015, we have added 8 additional advanced placement courses. These courses not only expand students' access, but also address their needs and interests. This year, we have launched a 2-year model for teaching advanced placement world history, enabling us to focus on the key skills, those critical types of questions and formats that they will be required to utilize when they take the AP exam. We have also increased student participation in AP research, which will provide more students with an opportunity to graduate with the AP capstone distinction or the AP diploma. In looking ahead to next year, we are preparing to add AP Calculus BC and AP Computer Science. So we're excited about that. So now Mrs. Kelly Gorman would like to share some more information on how we use this data to inform our instructional programs.
Good evening. I'm the fourth person to use that line. We want to take a moment to explain how we use the data that we are displaying here, such as the exam results tonight, to foster change throughout our district. Our goal is always to provide every student with a rigorous education so they are best prepared for any post-high school path that they choose to pursue. The first table demonstrates how we looked at the number of students completing Algebra 2 by cohort to increase the percentage of students earning a Regents Diploma with advanced designation. And I say by cohort because, as we know, our students are not always in the same grade level taking the same math course at the same time, so we look at it by graduation date. The number of students earning this distinction is one measure of a high-quality education in New York State. It is typically the gatekeeper course for this accomplishment is Algebra 2. Multiple stakeholders, such as teachers, guidance counselors, and administrators work together over several years to achieve the common goal of raising the Advanced Regents Diploma rate in Elwood. This involved enrolling more students in Algebra 2, offering the course with extra lab supports for students who may be struggling with the curriculum, ensuring that our AAS teacher was prepared to assist struggling students with their coursework, and taking a really close look at all of the data that was available to us from past exams and seeing if there were changes that we could implement. As you can see, this increased our rate to 76% last year. And I should point out the reason why it's TBD for June 2020 in that bottom row is that our students typically take that course in either sophomore or junior year, so they won't graduate until this June. So that's why that is. In the second chart, we focus on another indicator of student success after high school graduation, the completion of 4 years of high school mathematics while in high school. Research shows that many students who do not take a math course in their senior year of high school may later be required to enroll in a remedial, non-credit bearing course, which they pay for at the college level. Studies have shown that approximately 1/3 of students who are placed in such courses do not go on to graduate from their college program successfully. It shows that they do not go on to pursue higher level math courses in college. Studies show that the higher the level of the math course a student completes in high school, the more likely they are to graduate with a bachelor's degree from college. So, all good things that we want for all of our students. So to facilitate growth in this area, additional courses have been added to the math department to reflect the varying interests of our students. So for instance, we added a college algebra course, which is aligned with college math placement exams. We added World of Technology, which is something for students who might be entering like a trade after graduation, but it ties in math skills still. We have computer science classes now and AP statistics. And if you see at the bottom of that table, we've raised the number of students completing 4 years of math in high school to 85%, which we're very proud of. On this next slide, we are highlighting the growth of our AP program in mathematics. So we're trying to highlight how it benefits all students across the high school. Over the past few years, we've expanded opportunities for our highest achieving students, as well as students who may not have chosen to accelerate in middle school, to still be able to take an AP math course in high school. We currently offer AP Calculus AB, AP Statistics, and AP Computer Science Principles to our math department. And as you can see from the data, we have many students who now enroll in multiple AP math courses while at Jacqueline High School. Last year, the total number of students who had done that at graduation, so by the time they graduated, was 34. So it doesn't mean that 34 did it in that year. It means that the graduating cohort over their junior and senior year, essentially. Next year, we will add AP Calculus BC to further challenge our students, and also AP Computer Science A, which will be a third computer science course for a sequence for our students who may be interested in pursuing those fields. And I'm now going to bring Dr. Holt back up to tie it all back together.
Thank you. So I think there are many things here to be proud of. And achieving specific measurable gains that are illustrated is really a reflection of an entire system working together. And for us to be able to add classes like this, for us to be able to focus on specific goals like getting more children into Algebra 2, achieving 4 years of math, it really is a reflection of collaboration between our guidance department, our administration, our faculty, our administrators, the support of the Board of Education, the ability to fund some of the courses that we're offering. But it really comes together when you see numbers like 75% at a diploma with advanced designation, and the growth that you see in there. And the fact that there are more children trying that 4th year of math means it's much more likely that they will be successful when they get into the college setting and understand their workplace as well. So we know that we have continued areas of growth. There are things that we're focusing on that we are drilling into, and we're using the resources we get from College Board and the resources we get through BARS to do that data analysis. And Dr. Bosser's phrase, there is the race to excellence has no finish line, is the truth of how we operate. That is what we're looking for. So on January 30th, our team will present information on the enhancements for next year. We'll explain a little bit more about how we're implementing the Calc AB and BC and some of the other enhancements overall to the program. So thank you. Any questions? Any questions or comments?
First of all, thank you for a very organized, thorough, comprehensive review of that. Great information. I think what resonates with me is, first of all, the discipline to use the data to measure. You can't measure you can't manage what you don't measure. So there's that discipline. But I think what really gets me excited is the way you're articulating the use of the data to actually drive improvement in mastery connected to long-term outcomes, right? What really resonated in the presentation was this is not just about how do we improve the statistics so we look better relative to the state. It's how does that correlate to success not only in high school but beyond high school? So I really applaud that you're not keeping it at the surface level of just data and measuring improvement of data. It's really connected to long-term success for our students in whatever pursuit they have. So I think that's what really got me most excited.
Yeah, primarily what Mr. Lemay said.
And I'm just curious as to, do we ever look at, New York State is so broad, there's so many school districts, so many different demographics. Do we ever narrow that down to more of a regional, looking at how we compare with our neighbors, specifically in the areas of like mastery? I notice that that's always been like a struggle, whereas we may excel in the passing rates. I have seen that our mastery has over years has kind of gone down. I know that's due to like the Common Core in certain regions like the math. But do we ever look at what our neighbors do, maybe share some of their practices, or I don't know how we rank to them?
We do look at it internally. We have a tremendous amount of data. We didn't, for example, we look at how our AP breaks down by level, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, across exams and overall, in our Regents exam. When we're looking at AP, we're looking at our own data because all of the data of other school districts is private, and they only release the state and global.
Okay.
But for the Regents exam, there you have to go in and go district by district. So what we do is we maintain a data sheet that has probably, I'm going to say maybe 5 or 6 years of data, and even longer, right? Yeah, 10 years. So it's an ongoing thing that we do internally. And then we look at a couple things. We look at, we're always looking for trends.
Mm-hmm.
So if state data went down, if our data went down, but another district's data went up, that brings a question for us. Why? If everything is trending in the same way, we are very cognizant of the fact that all of these Regents exams are under construction. They are all being changed because in the next 5 years, every single one of the major exams is going to be revised. And they are starting the revisions early, so they start changing some of the scoring methodology. They put some of the questions in that reflect some of the new language. So each year we are focused on exam. This past year was, this coming June will be our students' first attempt at the new global history. Our U.S. history teacher right now is training for the new exam in U.S. history the following year, and there's an exam or 2 exams every single year for the next 5 years. So we have to, when we're taking that into consideration, we can't just necessarily say 2018 to 2019. But when we then start to look at other districts, and then we look at the state, that's when we can say, is this a trend due to something outside our locus of control, or is this something that we can affect change on? And we definitely make that comparison.
Totally appreciate that. I love the expansion of all the AP programs. I think it gives our children wonderful opportunities, the extra math, the technology, offering something, a little something to everybody. 2-year history, I think is phenomenal. I think it'll give our students just a greater depth of foundation that will help them when they go further on. My question with that is what I would love to see, be more excited to see, is to see the numbers of how many people score 3s, 4s, and 5s. And the reason I say that is because in my own experience over the last 6 years, I've noticed that colleges have now, whereas a 3 was just universally accepted, and as the measure now it seems it leans more to the 4s and the 5s. And so I'm just curious to see, our students going in that direction? Are they growing with that also? And that just would be interesting.
Yeah, I think we see some consistent performance there as well. I actually, we were trying to choose which slides we present to try to present it. But I do have that slide available, and in case you asked, I asked Mr. Tranquino to have it available to show you. I think what we see is, can you get that a little bit? Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's a couple things reflected here. We're looking at 4 years. We're looking at the percentage of students who score at each level. We also are taking a look at the bottom row, which is how our enrollment is trending at the same time that we're looking at how many students are taking exams, and then where the breakdown is. So if you look at the first 2 columns, the first 2 rows, level 1 and 2, there, as we look at 2018 to 2019, and even across, you see really, I think across the whole chart, probably no change more than 4%. So we're looking at statistically insignificant shifts, but a lot of consistency. So when we look at this year, and we see the level 3 staying at 33%, the level 4 going up 1%, the level 5 going down at 3%, and then we have to capture within that the fact that there are 40 less students, and how many of those students take an AP, and how many would take 2 APs. So we have to, what we take away from this is that in our open enrollment process, with the addition of the one-to-one course selection for every child, that's now going into year 3, where they all meet with a guidance counselor and they craft what Mr. Croto always calls the story arc for themselves, where they need to focus themselves in their areas of strength, heading towards some type of specific goal, that they are making better choices about which APs to take in order to challenge themselves, but still doing that within the philosophy that we want them to challenge themselves within an open enrollment. But using data and using teacher recommendation and talking with their parents and their guidance counselor. But I think we see that our students are still maintaining and growing at levels 3, 4, and 5. But when it comes to will students earn college credit, that's a multifaceted response because, number one, there are some schools that will not excuse a child from a core class in their major, regardless of a 5, because they want the child to take it there. However, college recruiters report to us that when students enroll in APs, and that's why it's so important that so many children, and the percentage of students that are participating is growing, is that when students demonstrate that they're willing to challenge themselves at the high school level, it lets the college recruiter know that this is a student who's going to work hard in a college setting. And that's a piece of taking AP. And then in many cases, depending on the major, scoring in the upper range will allow you to have credit for that course and move on to something else. A couple of years ago, I think we showed the website where parents can go to and you can check any college. And you can look at any specific course and they'll tell you what score you would have to have in order to count it as a college class. But again, whether it counts in lieu of a college class or not, it's certainly sending a message to college recruiters, and more importantly, it's just giving the students, building their own muscle, so that when they're in the college setting, they feel more confident because they've had more rigorous coursework.
I totally agree with that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can you remind us when open enrollment started?
2015.
Okay. I know years past, maybe even just last year, we've seen a similar chart.
Yeah, because we used
and
to show the bridge.
It was still consistent.
Yeah,
the bridge was consistent.
Yeah, we used to show before and then after, but here we were.
So really for the past, whatever.
Since it started.
5, 6 years. Even before then, I felt like the numbers were consistent as we did show the
Yeah,
slide.
what we see is that the high-performing students are continuing to perform at a high level, and more children are challenging themselves.
I think with the open enrollment, you want to know that in doing that the kids that might not have taken AP, that might have shied away from it, are now embracing it, like you said, getting the confidence and the rigor, and also, excelling it. Or, they're challenging themselves and they're not floundering. So to see that the numbers, like the level 1s, are very low is a good indication that, these kids, they're really meeting up to their potential. And I think that's really exciting. It's very exciting. It was very exciting.
This is just a comment, but I wanted to say that I appreciate how you and your team, it's not just you and your team really work hard for such a small district to really keep us competitive, and not just by analyzing the data and bringing that into classroom experience, but by the course offerings that we have. Like, I'm very happy to see Calculus BC coming on. I know that you already forecasted that, so I know it was on the agenda. But just that you always make it a priority to keep course selection competitive for our students, and that's difficult for scheduling and just staffing, and so know that that's very appreciated.
Mrs. Marcus, you did a nice job opening for a comment that I'd like to make. Mrs. Weiss asked a question whether or not we reach out to districts that might be outperforming us in certain areas, and the answer is yes. We learn from our colleagues, and we can all collaborate with people in similar departments. When you're a small school, it's important to reach out to neighbors and people who share that expertise to explore and investigate new strategies. However, the number of folks that reach out to us to see what we are doing far outweighs those that we reach out to for assistance. And we very often have educators and professionals reaching out to our leadership team looking to visit our schools and see what we are doing, and that's something we're very proud of. But yes, because of our size, we do enjoy networking with our region to make sure we're giving our students every advantage.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with you 100% on everything. I think most interestingly is that, you know, Long Island is such competitive and it's a unique niche, and that when we're looking at the data, to be looking at how we're performing with other Long Island schools, and not to knock anybody in upstate or somewhere else in a rural area where the competitive, demographics, and I think that was kind of really what I was looking to do. But I am so excited that people come to us, as you have stated on multiple occasions,
An
and
email,
we see that.
an email today indicates that the Levittown School District will be visiting us on January 17th to learn more about our literacy programs.
I always feel that collaboration is the best form of learning, so it's
And as Mrs. Kelly Gorman was just reminding me, we also host collegial circles here, where we bring teachers from other districts here to have conversations about this kind of work and share our strategies and tools.
Well, we always love listening to you, so I can imagine everybody else loves it.
They're leading, and the teachers lead the work. The teachers do, yeah.
Any other comments or thoughts?
I just want to say quickly, since inception, it's been a collaborative effort, obviously, with you guys, but I love hearing how the teachers are delving in and having the intuition to look at those data points, because if we're at that spot where we're 1 or 2 points away from hitting a national level 85, now you have a cohort of students, you can see where they scored, how they scored, go back to the teachers, see where you're missing the mark, or where the students are missing the mark, and continue that collaborative effort. So it's that portion I love. And furthermore, how it's always been student-centric. They've been involved from the inception of the opening of the APs, and to see all the new programs coming in. I know it's much of what you guys are looking into and seeing what the norm is and what the offerings are, but also listening to the students. So it's very important that we have both sides of that, and I appreciate all the effort that goes into it from the administrative level and also the teachers who are, taking that part as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Okay, the next thing that we have is a discussion item that I think Gina will pull up for us. Yes, let's do that. Okay, can I have, this is a good idea. Can we have a motion to amend the agenda and skip to the consent agenda portion? And then go back to this so that we just get that out of the way. Can I have a motion? Mrs. Mamalito, seconded by Mrs. Weiss. All in favor?
Just a question.
Yes.
The donation portion, the donations first before we accept the consent agenda, to recognize the donations. I'll do that first quickly, that's okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Make sure it's done. We do have a abundant amount of donations, and it's always with most gratitude that we will anticipate the acceptance of them further in the agenda or shortly on the consent agenda. So we have a $2,300, and these are from, the Elwood Booster Club, $2,300 to support the purchase of the 2nd grade multicultural leveled reading books for Harley and primary school. We have a $400 donation to support the shipping costs of the new Quincy air compressor model QTV-54, like my cousin Vinny with the tires, for the John Glenn High School Technology Department. $1,760 to support the following at the school clubs for the 2019 late fall season, and they are as followed. The Board Makerspace Club for 4 weeks for $320. Boyd Love Your Selfie Club for 4 weeks, $320. Miss Marcus, are you going to be the chaperone of that one, or no? I feel like I could see you doing that one. All right. The Harley Crazy 8 Math Club, 4 weeks for $320. Harley Makerspace Club for 3 weeks at $240. Harley Love Your Selfie, 3 weeks for $240. Harley Culinary Kids for 4 weeks for another $320. We also have a donation from the Elwood Middle School PTA for 37 books with an estimated value of $390 from the Scholastic Book Fair held in November 2019. From the Quincy Compressor, one Quincy Compressor, also model QTV-54 with a value of $2,049 to be used in the John Glenn High School Technology Department. We have a donation from Elwood for $840 to support 16 weeks of instruction of the SEPTA Harley Friendship Club. And lastly, a donation from a teacher, Solomon Buckman, for a book titled John Glenn, A Hero's Life, 1921 to 2016, with a value of $170. So once again, we thank everybody, all our organizations and individuals who continue to donate. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept all of those donations? Oh,
Yeah,
do you have a comment? Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize the corrective action plan for our external audit. Once again, it was discussed in a prior meeting. We had a glowing report. Some of the items are minimal in findings, extra classroom in particular, which is something that is always experienced in school districts. We've done a very good job of professional development. Our corrective action plan is stated in that, and just a job well done once again to our business office and staff.
Okay, and that's to discuss something on the consent agenda, correct, pointing that out.
Thank you for those very kind remarks. There's a motion on the table to accept the donation, so we should make sure we have that motion in a second.
Mrs. Mamalito and Mrs. Weiss seconding. All in favor to accept the donations, 5-0.
Thank you for your kind remarks, Mrs. Mamalito. I will convey them as well to Ms. Dunkel, who regrets not being here tonight, but I will share with the board and the community present that she is watching her stepson's graduation from Marine Boot Camp. So she is certainly forgiven for her absence.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? That's fine. Mrs. Weiss, seconded by Mrs. Mamalito. All in favor? 5-0. Okay, now we are going to bounce back to the discussion item, which is a framework for the board's role in advocacy.
I would be remiss if I did not draw attention to one of the personnel items that was on the agenda and accepted by the Board of Education. The board accepted the resignation for the purpose of retirement of our Executive Director of Special Education, Ms. Diane Wilkinson. It was not effective immediately, and that's not why she's not here tonight. She had a family conflict that conflicted with our meeting, and she was excused. But Mrs. Wilkinson, after a very lengthy career in the Elwood School District, will be retiring at the conclusion of the school year. We will recognize her along with our other retirees at our June meeting, but I would like to publicly thank her for her service to the district and our students for the many years that she served our community.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now, third time's the charm. Framework for the board's role in advocacy. This is something that Dr. Rossert suggested, and we agreed to, lack of a better word, task him to come up with some words to start us off in helping us, if the situation arises, to have some considerations on whether something of an advocacy nature rises to a level where the board should get involved. Because this is something historically, we've experienced, whether it's this board or prior boards. So this is the starter document that we've all seen, and I will discuss it tonight and give some of our feedback, if anyone would like to start that off.
May I just add some comments before the
Sure.
board? Thank you, Mrs. Marks. I want to point out to the community that we have a very hardworking board that is not shy to sacrificing their free time. So following our last public board meeting, where there was very healthy discussion at the board table and with the community, the board suggested that they meet for a retreat. So the board came in on a Monday night, a snowstorm Monday night, as a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, and spent 3 hours beginning to formulate the idea for this framework and the language contained within it. I was the steward of those notes and put them together as best I could in this draft. But we did some research. Every board is faced with the challenge of concerns coming forward from the community or by members of the board and tasked with whether or not it is something that falls under the purview of the board and what action should be taken should it. We reached out to the Nassau-Suffolk School Boards Association, the New York State School Boards Association, and the New York State Education Law to see if there were any guidelines to advise boards on advocacy initiatives, and there were not. So I began a conversation between a circle of superintendents talking about what a valuable tool that would be And this effort and initiative being born in the Elwood School District is something that has now been shared and being watched by many, many school districts in the county, and after we finalize it, throughout the state. Every board struggles with this question. Every individual board member struggles with this question. When members of the community come forward and ask the board to take action in advocacy, whether it's through letter writing, whether it's through visiting Albany, meeting with elected officials, there are often circumstances that present themselves that make it a question of whether or not it is an item for the board to address, whether it is something under the purview of the Board of Education. Some are very clear, some are very clearly under the purview of the board, some are very clearly not under the purview of the board, and then there are many that fall into the gray. So what this document is seeking to do is help to sort out those in the gray. So when we look at the document as it's drafted, these were the priorities as outlined by the board. And it references our district mission, our district goals, the priorities of our students. And I don't need to read to the board or the community, but this was just my best effort of articulating in writing the thoughts and the sentiments that came forward from the board during our 3-hour board retreat. I hope I did a good job capturing your thoughts. But as Mrs. Markets said, tonight is the opportunity to discuss it, to make suggested revisions, changes, additions, subtractions. And what our goal is to identify a policy that would be added to the board operating procedures that were adopted in May of 2017 to give this and future boards guidance when these types of advocacy initiatives are brought forward. I will tell the Elwood board they are now working on behalf of the county and the state of New York. There are many eyes waiting to see our finished product. No pressure.
Who would like to start a comment?
I have comments, but somebody to start.
Mr. O'Malley, you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. I think one thing that was critical in the way that we put this together was that it was intended to be a framework. It wasn't meant to be rigid and flexible and provide an explicit path to what would be in scope or out of scope, in a rigid way. What it was intended to do was to provide a framework that evidenced some of the questions that we were talking about in the last meeting and definitely delved deeper into in our retreat session. So I think in the spirit of that document, I love the fact that it's giving us some of the criteria and the difficult things that we should be evaluating, but it gives us the flexibility, or any board, to bring their own particular perspectives and the nuance of individual issues, but have a common language, a common approach, and really a framework to be able to think about and evaluate as a group, individually and as a group, how advocacy on a particular issue relates to the school's mission, the goals and objectives. So I think it's a great tool for us and other boards to utilize in a consistent way to bring a process and take away maybe some of the emotionality and uniqueness of a situation and just give you a standard approach to utilize in multiple scenarios. So I think it was a great initial draft, and I think it captures the spirit of what we discussed, which was creating a consistent framework and a tool set that we could use on an ongoing basis.
I totally agree with that. I think that it's a great framework. I love number 3. I love how we structured that part out. I think number 1 and number 2 kind of delineates really, in my view, what advocacy is all about. And when I had that question, I went to the dictionary just to look it up, and it says a political process by an individual group which aims to influence public policy and resource allocation. So of course, the board is responsible for policy. So I went to what I use all the time is the New York State Board Guide for that, and I kind of went and looked up, referring to that and looking at page 72 on that the policy, it's basically when we're creating policy, how we're looking at what is the impact on student learning, what is the relevant data, what is the current law proposal. So all that kind of falls under 3, but for most, I believe that as a board member, we are there to be the voice of those of the community. And and you know, so certain issues that I felt that maybe we should look at. I think what we were looking for was really a framework, a rubric to how we ask those questions, you know, is there a safety issue involved? Does it impact students on a daily level? What's the financial impact to the district? How does this issue that we're facing, how is it related to student education and academic success and student life? And is that something that as a board we should take on? And that's really, so I love the concept of it, and again, certain parts, I think it's a good start.
I agree. I think it's a great start. I think it comes from fruitful conversation and dialogue that we had, that we wanted a framework. I think Mike hit the nail on the head, and you see in paragraph 1 it talks about the guidelines when discussing the issue, and I'm not sure if we want it as a guideline. I think we really talked much more of a framework and the considerations. I think that was a big word that floated around our dialogue that night, and I agree. I think the board member, I struggled with number 1. Out of all of the information that was here, number 1 was the one I was like, not sure about that. But I do believe that it's our job as board members and as elected to our community to follow out their voices and their concerns, but we have an obligation and an oath that we've taken to New York State and to make sure we follow within our district's mission statement. I think that's something that we,
which is why number 3
goals.
states.
Correct. I think 3 goes into that, which I think is perfect. I think Dr. Bosser, you heard us very loud and clear. You made sure that it was articulated that our goals, board members, to follow out what we put out there as our goals for the year, what we are as a district, who we are as a district, and what we represent. My only concern is keeping it so open-ended, as Mr. Gomez said, to make sure that it's a framework, that we don't handcuff ourselves or future boards, which I think we go into. I think maybe we could tweak a few words here or there to make sure that we're keeping it more open-ended, but I think the premise of this framework is what will allow us to be guided and to help us take on different advocacy efforts that come forward, different concerns of the community. It'll give everybody a home plate. Get back to home plate. Let's talk about it. Where are we? What's our vision? What are we doing as a board? Is that in the scope of it? Is that not in the scope? And by doing so, we can go back, go to our policy 2010 and say, all right, guys, are we in line with what we should be doing? So it hits it. I just, I know at one point we'll go through the repetitive strike and do a lot of the work this evening. I think this is just more so to have dialogue. But I think it definitely exemplifies the dialogue we had and helps us to get where we need to be. Thank you.
If I could add one more point, and I think this was something that I heard loud and clear in the last board meeting, and we reflected a lot on, was our role in hearing the community. And one of the things I like about this framework is we've opened up the idea that not only at the board level, but at the subcommittee or the board committee level, we can create opportunities for deeper dialogue. I think one of the concerns I've had is not allowing certain issues to start to dominate discussion at the board level. But these are important issues, and now we have within this framework an opportunity to say, okay, this is an important issue. We don't want it to take over the entirety of our board meeting, but let's leverage a board committee to delve deeper so we can actually truly get a sense of what is the pulse of the community. So, that was something that I heard loud and clear from the rest of the board, that we do take seriously our role of making sure we're hearing the community, we're representing the community. How do we create more opportunities to ensure there's room for that dialogue, but that it doesn't distract the board and the administration from the overall primary mission, which is articulated in this. And I think that leverage with the committees is a crucial component of this that I don't want to be lost.
Right, I think that's part of the process, and I think you state that in the paragraph right below, second to the end. And we've had a lot of issues that have come through committee and that have come up, the current issues currently. We just never want to stifle the community voice and the voice that we represent. And that's just my concern. I just don't want, and I think once you kind of do that, I'm all for a procedure and a process and going forward, but I want issues of concern to be addressed because, like we learned and we learned in the presentation before, collaborative learning is the way that we grow. And, we want to grow as a district, and, there might be issues that maybe another district hasn't explored yet, or other districts haven't explored, and we're on the forefront of that more often than not. If we never took that step forward, where would we be? So, I feel that, again, that's why we're here sitting in this position and why we're elected.
So overall, I like the document. It does need some tweaking. I agree. Like Mr. Lamena said, and the rest of you, we just can't be pigeonholed into acting a certain way all the time and dictate that for future boards as well. That would be, it just would not bode well for the community, for the board, for the district. We need to keep in mind, number one doesn't bother me so much, it's just bringing us back to what the purview of the board is. And so that'll always bring us back to district mission, district goals, and not losing sight of that. But again, we can agree to tweak the wording on some of this. It's just about really having a guideline.
I think we really, what we were looking at is, what can we use to go down the list and say, okay, we want to, build a soccer field, okay, and, we want to do something like that. What are the questions that we're looking at, and what kind of things can we use to guide us to say, is this really appropriate for us to take on, or is this something that, maybe the athletic department to take on? It's kind of a silly example, but those are the kinds of things we're looking for, without being too concrete, like you said.
And if I may, because several members of the board have alluded to it, and Mrs. Marcus and I briefly discussed it, I don't think it's a healthy exercise to sit at the table this evening and go line by and to go line by line. But if the board is in agreement, what I would suggest is that each board member mark up your documents, take the notes, put in the suggestions of red line changes that you have and the language that you would like to see. Submit them to the district clerk, and Ms. Janelli will examine all the documents and merge them so that we have one master draft working with commentary from each member of the board to circulate back to the board so we can continue working on the overall document before bringing it forward for a first reading.
Perfect. And thank you, because you really did take the initiative, and it really is a good foundation.
Anybody else have any other comments? Otherwise, I'll just add. What I'm hearing from you guys, and what I agree with, is that we all found it to be a helpful exercise to develop something that would really help us determine whether an advocacy issue is something under the purview of the board, right? So we wanted something to help a discussion among board members that would be a public discussion, most likely, to discuss whether that item of advocacy would be something under the purview of the board. My concern with this document is that it says framework, but I feel like it's a little bit beyond a framework and a little bit beyond just those guidelines. And I do think it's a little bit rigid, in addition to just having some extra verbiage and language that's really not particularly necessary or helpful. Just leading, I agree with Mrs. Weiss, I think number 3 down is where we get more meat, but just, and we're not going line by line, but the concerns of 1 and 2 for me, is that I'm especially concerned by number 2. That we should refrain, that the board should refrain from entertaining requests for the same brought forward, something of personal interest brought forward by a member of the community or a member of the board. It would be number 1. Most points of advocacy come from some initial personal interest, affect. There's always a reason for everything. So to say nobody should care about anything personally, whether it's a board member or community member, to me that will knock out any advocacy, because as soon as it can be tied to, Mr. Lamena personally or Mrs. Bell in the audience personally, then our board or a future board could read this and say, and I just, that could, you know, I just think that I would like an example of
Yeah.
one time where that
Well,
would
that's
not
what I
be.
wanna do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have to fine tune the definition of a personal interest. I sat through, in a former district, months of an individual member of the community coming forward to the board, asking the board to advocate against a law that, or advocating for a law that would limit the number of liquor stores that are permitted within a square mile radius in a particular town or village. There is law that speaks to that, so communities don't get over infiltrated by it, but there's, and every meeting, month after month after month, the same member of the community came forward and asked the board to take action. The board declined that each time. What do you think that resident did for a living? He owned a liquor store, and he was trying to prevent other liquor stores from opening up in the neighborhood. That's what I have in mind when it says personal interest, not something that represents the overall community in any capacity. And I think we have to figure out a way to define what is something someone is seeking for personal gain. That's what I mean by personal interest, rather than this is something important to me. Because as you said, every advocacy issue is something important to me personally. But I think perhaps we can use personal gain
I think that would be
to
very
help to
I
identify.
appreciate that language change very much.
I also think throwing it back down to the committees helps have the dialogue, help vet the process. So I think we have the layer there, it's just a matter of how do we get the verbiage to get to where we need to get to. That's fine.
Can I speak? I mean, we do that all the time. I mean, I know that there is something circulating for turf fields, you know, that went to facilities committee. So although it is a board and community item, there's an interest group that wants that specific, and they were directed to go back to the facilities. So we're already practicing that. I think that, you know, we just need to, we haven't had that many advocacy issues that have come up besides the ones in legislative committee that were, you know, advocating for foundation aid, tax cap issues, and so on. I mean, that's what we do. But outside of that, I mean, we've just had one issue so far that has come up that maybe should go back into committee. So,
I mean, I think we're pretty cohesive on, we like the idea of a guideline and a framework and a structure that really will benefit our board and future boards by having considerations to hash out to see if it rises to a level where the board should get involved.
I love that.
And we all are in agreement, I believe, that we, you know, don't want to hinder ourselves from our right to advocate as electeds for the district and future boards. I'm very, you know, aware of that. We are allowed to advocate. We want this to be something helpful rather than hindering or silencing in any way, right? Just a helpful thing. Okay, so we will give all of our suggestions from deletions, the reorganization, and maybe even additions, because I think we can even flush some of the considerations out and add to them. So we will each individually provide that to Mrs. Janelli. Wait, are you still Janelli? Okay. All right. And then we'll get a new document working for our first read. All right, great. Good. Any other comments?
And again, I'd like to publicly thank and commend the board for taking on this initiative. There is no such policy, there is no such document in the state of New York. When we complete it, it will be the first, and there will many boards that will follow your lead. So I'd like to commend you on your leadership in this area.
Okay, now we are up to, I think we're second resident remarks, correct? The policy, oh my goodness, it's a long one. P of the agenda, the second reading and adoption of policies. The two up for adoption, which we've read previously and discussed previously, is policy 5605, voter registration for students. Is there any discussion, comments, questions on that one? Mrs. Weiss?
I always, when I read this, get stumped on it, because can you just clarify what the current procedure is, Dr. Vassar, for students who are of voting age in high school? have a procedure for encouraging it to vote. This is for pre-students, so as I was reading it, it's for kids that are 16, but they will be 18, they will be eligible to vote, but it's to get them on board as long as they meet the qualifications. But what is there for the people that can have within that year? They're not quite 18 maybe, but they will be 18 by the November election. If you can just.
So your question is, what do we do as a district for students that will be 18 by the next election?
Because I think that part was kind of like.
Yeah, so the law changed as of January 1st of 2020.
Okay.
As you know, there are many initiatives taking place throughout the state and country to encourage greater voter turnout. So we have always had information available through the high school guidance office and signage that goes around the guidance office, encouraging children to register, having the documents available in the guidance office and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Post January 1, 2020, it's required that it becomes part of our instructional program. So we are adding information regarding the importance of voting and voter registration to our actual school curriculum to be in compliance with the law and our newly adopted policy. I don't want to say which class was selected to add it to, but I know a class, I'm going to guess it's 11th grade social studies, that will be the likely target for the instruction, because that makes sense along the lines with their curriculum. But there was a class that was determined at the high school level to add this unit into their lesson plan.
I just don't want people to get the impression that we're addressing cohort, but we're neglecting another cohort. So that's what I wanted to.
Every student will be required to receive instruction about the importance of voting and the method for registering for voting.
This one specifically goes to those that aren't voting.
It's before they're of age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we will have any discussions or questions on the next policy, which is 9510, pay rates. There will be no questions. This is the driest thing in our book. Pay rates for temporary substitute and student employees. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, can I have a motion to accept both the final read of 5605 and 9510? Mr. Lamena, seconded by Mrs. Mamalito. All in favor? 5-0.
And just to remind the board, and thank you for clarity, that I've asked the district clerk to place 9510 on the reorganizational agenda for deletion. This isn't something that should go before the board every year. It's a contractual item that we can handle at the initiative level.
So we are up to our second residence remarks. I'm not going to read through everything, but I do want to remind all of our residents, even very familiar ones, to make sure that they identify themselves.
Thank you, Julie Badlato, former school board member. As to your framework on advocacy, I think it's a great idea. I think it's important, having been a board member and having been involved in several issues over the years, that what's the line of advocacy we can use, and some that come to mind is establishing a library district. You would think that would be an automatic school board, go as whole hog on it. That was not the case. And then also we've had several land development issues and things like that. So it does, there are going to be a lot of those gray areas, and we had a healthy discussion last month about vaccinations. And everyone's going to have a passion. There's a reason that you're all sitting, there's 5 different reasons that you're sitting here. And what I would remind you, as again being a former board member, is number one, you have to do soul searching as to, is this for me? Is it, as my husband used to say, is it for your ego, or is this for the kids? And is this really for the whole school district, or is this what I want for my children? Because there are a lot of times that you can advocate, like you have a vision for your child and your family and the education path you want them to take. And that might be perfect for your child, but we have a whole diverse element of students and everything else. So it's really taking a common sense approach and really and, you know, checking your ego at the door when you walk in here. And the biggest thing to remember is going back to, you know, school board training and your role as a board member. And while you're 5 individuals, you act as one board and one voice. And none of you is allowed to advocate using the Board of Education name or I'm an elected official unless the 5 of you have voted here to give that authorization for the individual. So just a word of caution as you put, and that might be something you want to incorporate in the framework, just as a helpful reminder to everybody, because it is a very difficult, and all of you sitting here know, there's a lot of challenges and it's very difficult to try and do the best for your community. The other comment I had refers back to our AP presentation, which I thought was great. One thing that I've been seeing a lot, I work with as a volunteer with my alma mater in the admissions venue. And one thing in tandem, I would say, with, you know, strengthening or increasing the offerings of AP exams, one critical piece that I think sometimes we don't give enough weight to is that profile that goes to the colleges with the applications needs to be very transparent so that the colleges can easily see what's the rigor of the programs. When they see the student's application, they say, oh wow, they took every single AP they could take at John Flynn and could possibly fit in your thing. And I'm 15 seconds over. But anyway, so I would just recommend a review of the college
Trying to be better.
profile for the schools in tandem with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bellata.
I took 15 seconds.
I don't have a long comment this evening. My name is Agapi Bell. I'm representing just myself. I wanted to thank you for your thoughtful discussion tonight and for creating this document and being in the process of it. I look forward to seeing the next iteration of it. And I also wanted to, again, thank Dr. Hull and her team for another amazing presentation. Many of us that are friends were very excited about the additions to the AP curriculum. And I wanted to come every month and remind you, as you start the budget process, to please consider class sizes as the first priority. I'm sorry, but I can't sleep until I come and as the
Promise
process.
to increase them dramatically.
I know. With all the course offerings and opportunities for the children, I just, my concern, as I I'm a person who dives into minutia, and I do number crunching, and I have emailed you about the grades that I think, I'm like, there's an aberration, and I know you're doing, you work diligently, and the business department does an amazing job with the money, and I thank Mr. Tranchino for finding free money to do security, the cybersecurity. But I just wanted to make a resonant remark that I am going to be looking at the budget and asking others to also, and I hope you make class sizes a priority the way you did this past year. And thank you for that.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Can I have a motion to reconvene into executive session for the purpose of discussions regarding a potentially legal matter? Mrs. Weiss, seconded by Mrs. Mamalito. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you for coming out, everyone, and making your comments. Happy holidays. We'll see you at whatever concerts are